1 in 5 people say they are less likely to buy Brexit-branded Not for EU produce in a fresh blow for farmers. That's when new rules around food labeling continue to be rolled out and Rishi Sunak tries to woo farmers. Since October last year, all meat and some dairy products moving from Great Britain to be sold in Northern Ireland have been required to carry the labels. And the move, introduced as part of the Windsor framework between the UK and the EU, is meant to ensure goods aren't moved onward into the Republic of Ireland, which is an EU member country. But the British government is even going further. From October 2024, all meat and dairy products sold across the UK will also have to carry the labels to ensure food sold in Great Britain can also be sold in Northern Ireland. The requirement will be applied to more products from July 2025. Media noted that some shoppers were left confused and in some cases disgusted by the labeling, and now new polling commissioned by campaign group Best for Britain reveals the extent of the backlash against it. The poll of 1,027 people undertaken by Survation on behalf of Best for Britain suggests that hard-pressed British farmers and retailers could face new and unforced financial strain from a lack of consumer confidence caused by the government's Brexit deal. The survey found that only 3 in 10 understand where Not for EU products are manufactured, as the government seeks to increase lower-grade agri-imports. Almost 1 in 5 have said they are less likely to buy products labeled Not for EU, which will be a requirement on all British meat and dairy produce from October 2024. The poll also revealed that only 3 in 10 understand where Not for EU products are manufactured, suggesting confusion among consumers, and that's something that could increase as new and one-sided trade deals with countries like Australia and New Zealand come into full effect. And these deals will eventually allow for limitless imports of meat to the UK from countries with lower animal welfare and food standards. The polling delivers a fresh blow for farmers facing increased financial pressure from new checks and labour shortages made worse by Brexit. Despite these requirements being an outworking of the government's Brexit deal, just under half of respondents think the UK government is responsible for the new labels and their negative impact on consumer confidence. So they're still blaming the EU probably. A separate study by the Food and Drink Federation, the FDF, found that Not for EU labeling will pose a significant risk to UK exporters. The data has been published as the Prime Minister seeks to claw back support among rural communities following significant by-election defeat and worrying polling for the Conservatives in traditional Tory heartlands. Speaking at the National Farmers Union Conference, that's the NFU, Sunak underlined his commitment to clear labelling despite these challenges, which he helped create. And when grilled on the challenges created for farmers by the threat of regulatory divergence and the lack of an SPS agreement with the largest market, Sunak, speaking 3 years after Brexit took effect, said, "Almost every agricultural challenge has been made more difficult by Brexit, and this government has continued to hammer farmers and food suppliers with terrible new trade deals which undercut British standards." That's not what Sunak said, the NFU said. The next government must commit to a youth mobility visa scheme to tackle labour shortages, an independent board of trade to protect farmers from fire sale trade deals, and beneficial regulatory alignment with our largest market to slash red tape. Well, the farmers don't like him, but at least Germany is helping Rishi Sunak with his Stop the Boats promise. The police are launching a major operation against a suspected smuggling gang, or they did launch it here. In North Rhine-Westphalia alone, that's where I live, around 700 officers were involved in the raids, including special forces. The federal police arrested numerous people in this major raid against suspected members of a smuggling gang in 4 federal states, with a focus on my home state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Arrest warrants in the double-digit range were executed on Wednesday, as a spokesman for the federal police in North Rhine-Westphalia told the German press agency on Wednesday. According to the agency information, this suspected smuggling network involves, among other things, the procurement of boats to cross the English Channel to Great Britain. Hundreds of officers in Germany, some heavily armed, took part in the large-scale operation coordinated by Europol in several European countries. According to the information, the approximately 700 emergency services that were deployed in the morning and the mid-morning in the most populous federal state alone also included heavily armed special forces from the federal police. The more than 20 locations in North Rhine-Westphalia were located in Düsseldorf, Cologne, and Detmold, among others. As a spokesman for the Federal Ministry of the Interior previously said upon request, the operation in North Rhine-Westphalia, in Hesse, Bavaria, and Schleswig-Holstein involved the execution of several European arrest warrants. The police authorities in France and Belgium were also involved, and the suspects are said to have been involved in smuggling across the English Channel for quite some time. In the north of France, for several years now, when purchasing certain boats and boat engines, it has been necessary to present ID and to provide a telephone number. This regulation was passed as a measure against smuggling into Great Britain. In connection with a major raid on Wednesday, the spokesman for the federal police in North Rhine-Westphalia also reported search warrants intended to secure evidence. Europol, that's the European Union's police agency, said the operation targeted a key smuggling network that sent people across the English Channel in small boats. The Iraqi Kurdish network is suspected of having brought people from the Middle East and East Africa from France to Great Britain in low-quality inflatable boats. And Europol spoke of more than 15 arrest warrants being executed. It's not the first time that the police here in Germany have become active in connection with smuggling to Great Britain. According to Europol, investigators in 5 countries busted one of Europe's largest smuggling gangs in a large-scale cross-border operation in 2022 already. The gang, which was the focus of the investigation at the time, is said to have smuggled thousands of people in rubber dinghies across the English Channel to Great Britain. At that time, large amounts of cash and firearms were discovered during searches in Germany, along with numerous inflatable boats and also motors. Today's internationally coordinated measures by the federal police are a great success in the fight against organized smuggling crime. That was said by Federal Interior Minister Nancy Faeser. In recent months, the federal police have confiscated inflatable boats and engines that were intended for smuggling across the English Channel. Great Britain and the EU want to integrate their actions against unwanted migration more closely in the future as well. The British border guards and the European Border Protection Agency Frontex wanted to sign a working agreement in London last Friday, as the British Home Office announced. This long-term framework agreement will give the UK access to new tools and intelligence to make the UK and EU borders more secure, it said. However, there are no plans for Great Britain to accept refugees who have entered the EU or vice versa. Since Brexit, London no longer has a withdrawal agreement with an EU state about migrants. Among other things, the exchange of liaison officers is planned, it said. The cooperation covers operational areas such as border management, risk analysis, information exchange, training, and the exchange of specialist knowledge. In the short term, it is possible to cooperate more closely in developing situational awareness of migration routes or combating document fraud. And EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak discussed the agreement on the phone a few days ago. The Conservative government in London sees the agreement as a further step in its promise to stop irregular migration in small boats across the English Channel. To this end, it has already passed strict laws and, among other things, wants to deport all people who arrive in Great Britain irregularly to Rwanda, regardless of their personal circumstances. However, there is a risk of resistance in the second chamber of Parliament at the moment still. But I brought this part especially with the police raids in Germany and other EU countries because also knowing about the big blow against traffickers in 2022, it is allowed to ask the question, how much of the reduction of the crossings that Sunak is saying is the doing of his government has really something to do with actions of the British government. When I look at the successes of those raids from EU member state police in 22 and now again 24, it raises a lot of questions about the Tory claims at least. And if you want to see something else, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.